Good evening, everyone, and welcome to digiMAX Sports Network. This is Scott Kirker with the new head basketball coach for Metamora, Justin Dehm. First off, congratulations.
Thanks, Scott.
You come into a program where it's not like you're starting new. You're going to know everybody in the program. You've been here for 11 years, and so the players know you. You know the parents. You know the kids. You've been the assistant coach for, the better part. All these kids that are going to be playing for you next year played for you this year and last year. So you know everybody. It's not like you're coming in with a clean slate. You're coming in with some experience with Metamora. You've coached under Danny Greaves now for 11 years. He's, as we were talking before, he had 1 year at Furman as an assistant coach, where he went. But before we get into what you expect, in the future here at Metamora, let's talk about your background. Growing up in Peoria, you went to grade school where?
I went to two different grade schools. I went to St. Thomas and St. Vincent, two Catholic schools in Peoria. And I grew up in a really fortunate time for a basketball guy like me. In the 90s in Peoria was Manual, and then it was Richwoods and Central, and even just in the wider basketball world was the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. So I fell in love with basketball at a really young age.
You grew up in kind of the golden age of basketball. There were some really good teams at both Central. Richwoods, you made a run your senior year. Junior year, got to the state championship game against Chicago Simeon. They had a pretty good player.
Yeah, decent.
Yeah, Derrick Rose.
Yeah, 2006, Derrick Rose was a junior also. He was the #1 player in our class.
Yep. And you went to overtime. I believe you hit the game-tying three. Was it a double pump three?
It was just kind of an off-balance runner. I guess we threw the ball in and it got tipped out of bounds, and we had no timeouts left, so we just kind of had to get it in and scramble, and I just kind of hit an off-balance shot. And that was our last field goal of the game because we didn't score in overtime.
Oh, man. But you still got second. Pretty good run for Richwoods. Pretty good run for anybody. We know what it's like to get second place. It hurts at the time, but as time goes on, that pain kind of dissipates a little bit. It's still a pretty good accomplishment. Your senior year, how did things go your senior year?
We were really good my senior year. We beat Washington in the sectional final for the second year in a row. We played them 3 years in a row. They got us the first time, and then the last two we beat them. We went to the super sectional. This was back in the 2-class era. So we were 2A. So that's the Sweet 16 back then. And we got beat by Lincoln, unfortunately. We were up 10-0 to start that game, and just kind of how Lincoln games go, you shoot too many threes and you don't make them, and they just kind of cut into that lead slowly over the course of the game, and they took the lead late in the second half and ended up beating us, and so we didn't make it back to state my senior year.
Neil Alexander has a way of doing that with a lot of kids over the years. He's been a very successful coach at Lincoln for a long time.
He's still coaching.
Still coaching. It's got to be close to his 40th year probably. From Richwoods, you go on to where?
Furman University in South Carolina.
How was that for somebody from Central Illinois going on to South Carolina?
It was a big adjustment. I didn't have a car or anything, so I was kind of down there on my own. I'd had rely on teammates to bum a ride if we were going out to eat or to get to the gym or stuff like that. But I was on my own a lot, and it forced me to grow up pretty quick, I think. I was a little bit homesick after the first couple weeks of summer school because I had to enroll and go to summer school the first week of June, so it was like 2 weeks after graduation in high school. I'm already in college classes and doing workouts and playing every day with the team. So I was a little bit homesick the first couple weeks, but I think I got over it pretty quickly. And it really helped me just mature as a person and grow up a little bit.
How was your 4 years at Furman?
It was a really good experience. My first 2 years, we were really, really young. My freshman year, we were the second youngest team in the country after Purdue. So we went 7-23, didn't have a very good year. Came home from Christmas, we were 0-10, I think. We didn't win a game until our 12th game of the year, which was St. Mary's. At St. Mary's, but against Howard, yes, in California, at St. Mary's, back when they had Patty Mills, who I think is still playing in the NBA now, but we didn't play them. It was at one of those little Christmas shootouts. And we finally got our first win against Howard, and that was my career high in my freshman year. Next year, we were really young again, a bunch of sophomores and freshman post players. So we had a lot of guards in my class, and then the next class came in and had a bunch of big guys. And so our big guys were really young the next year. Had a guy, one of our guards got injured. We ended up going 6-24 my next year. So really rough start those first 2 years, but we got better my junior year. We were over 500 or close to it. And then my senior year, we were 22-11. We were second most wins in school history at that point. Came up a little short, didn't make the NCAA tournament, lost in the conference championship, or conference semifinals, conference tournament to College of Charleston, who had a future NBA player on their team. Andrew Godlock, he was really special.
So you learned a lot of perseverance.
Yeah.
And you to go through that kind of adversity and not winning a lot, it kind of tests your love for basketball.
Oh, big time. I can remember right off the bat, my very first game was against a 7'7" guy from UNC Asheville. If you ever heard of Kenny George, he was from Chicago. He was a giant. My second game was at Clemson, and they were top 25 in the country. I think they won their first 16 games that year, went to the tournament. They beat us 90-something to 45. We had the third most turnovers in a Clemson game ever. We started all these freshmen. It was a rough start. If you didn't love basketball, you wouldn't have made it long. If it was today's day and age, everyone would have transferred.
Yeah, it would have, for sure. But what did that teach you, other than perseverance? What did it teach you that you can carry on today as a coach?
I learned a lot as a coach. I've always seen the game from a coach's perspective. I think just having my father coaching me growing up in little leagues and stuff like that, and watching games with me on TV and just kind of talking me through things like that. So I was fortunate to have a dad that helped me see the game that way, even in high school. So I took that in to learn the stuff that I learned from Coach Ellis in high school. Was he was a lot higher level coach, I think, than most high school coaches back then, and even today. So I was able to learn a lot from really good coaches early on, and then I took some stuff from my college coaches that I learned there, especially like dealing with adversity and seasons not going your way. What do you do? You know what I mean? And even the players that I got exposed to, not only on my team, but playing against some of the best players in the country. Steph Curry was a sophomore in my conference my freshman year. That was the year they went to the Elite Eight, and they were just on national TV all the time. And I had to guard him my maybe 7th, 8th, 9th game of my career at home when he was a sophomore, really just starting to gain this national reputation.
Right.
As a mid-major guy that was maybe the best player in the country.
Yeah, I believe his dad, Del Curry, played in the NBA, so he had a little bit of bloodline there to kind of draw from. So you graduate from Furman. Did you at that point think, okay, I want to be a basketball coach?
I kind of knew going into college. I can remember telling coaches that were recruiting me, like, I think I want to be a coach. I want a high school coach, college coach. I didn't really know. I thought college coach at the time. I eventually, after doing it for a year or so and then moving back here, I've just kind of stuck with high school ball for 12 years now.
So you coached 1 year with Furman, and was it that you didn't like the college game, or you liked the high school better, or what was it? Just a better opportunity? Just
a better opportunity here. I was director of basketball operations, so I wasn't technically an assistant coach. I was making very little money. I think I made more as a substitute teacher when I moved back here immediately right off the bat, like probably doubled my salary. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. Our coach we had a lot of injuries and a lot of things weren't going well that year. Didn't have a great year. The next year coming back was looking kind of the same. He ended up getting fired after that year. So it worked out okay for me to leave when I did, rather than him getting fired and then me having to figure it out afterwards. He's now the commissioner of the Missouri Valley.
Oh, wow.
Jeff Jackson's his name.
So you come back here. Did you go to Danny Greaves, or did he get a hold of you? How did that relationship start?
My brother Jared had just finished up his senior year here, so I don't know. I think I was watching them at maybe the Richwood Shootout in the summer or something, because I knew Coach Greaves since I was probably 5, 6, 7 years old. He was one of my first coaches in Biddy basketball. So kind of reconnecting with him. He always came back and visited us in the summertime, year to year, and we actually let one of his kids stay with us for an extended period of time when he needed to. I think it was after Katrina, when Daniel was playing with my brother all summer long. But just reconnected with him, and he really was on me hard about coming out here and helping out. I was thinking about getting into high school coaching. What do I I was living in Peoria. Am I going to help out at Metamora with Coach Greaves, where my brother is going to be a sophomore? And I was kind of playing around with the idea of helping out Richwoods at the time. It was right down the street from where I grew up, where I was living at the time. But ultimately, Coach Greaves, he convinced me. Yeah, he's very persuasive.
Very, very persuasive. So you come out to Metamora, and I believe you started out as a sophomore coach.
My first year, I was just a volunteer assistant. So I mainly just focused on the varsity.
Okay.
That 2013-14 season with Joe Kennell senior year and Grant Billimack senior year. But after that is when I moved to the sophomore coaching job for the next 2 years.
So you were the sophomore coach for what, about 2 years?
2 seasons.
Two seasons. And then Kyle Wyneth, who was the assistant varsity coach at the time, he stepped down because of family.
Yep. Just had his first kid.
He had his first kid, and so he steps down. You jump into the assistant coaching position. What was that like?
It was exciting. It was a lot of fun. Going from the sophomore level, and I think the year before, I had a pretty good sophomore team, but I kept losing one of my best players because he was always playing up on the varsity. It was Fletcher Kearson, if you remember. Yep. Fletcher was a pretty good athlete and a big body for a sophomore that kept going up to the varsity games, and maybe I'd get him for half, and then they'd steal him for the second half.
Yep.
It's great to have older guys, more experienced guys. You get a little bit more of the stuff you want. Whereas at the lower levels, it's not as much about putting in the offenses and the X's and O's and things like that, which I've really enjoyed as a coach. So I was fortunate to be able to change some things up and put in some offensive stuff that I had been doing with the sophomores for the next couple of years, and we've kind of been building on that ever since.
So while you're coaching here, you're not employed at Metamora as a teacher. Where were you employed?
I was a teacher in District 150 for a while. I was a long-term sub, and then I got hired at Morton High School. So I've been there for the last 4.5 years teaching health and PE.
So you've been at Morton, coaching in Metamora. Interesting combination.
Oh yeah, there's 2 weeks out of the year that it gets very interesting for sure.
And for the most part, you've been on the upper hand of that.
I like to tell the kids all the time, they've never beaten us until this year, since I was working there. I think the last time they beat us there or here was the night that I picked up my keys to start working there. It was December 18, 19, something of 2019.
Okay.
I'd gotten hired that week, and they gave me the keys when I got there that night. And that was the last time that they beat us, until this year when they beat us.
Until they beat us. And there have been some exciting finishes.
Really exciting.
Solomon Spores had the game.
One of the best shots in Metamora history.
Yes. And were you in school at that time, or was that homeschooling then?
That was we were in school. Yeah, that was the year back from COVID. We were in full time with masks and everything.
So went to school on Monday. That made it very nice.
That was great. That was great. That was a Saturday game, if I remember right.
Yes, it was a Saturday.
So yeah, that Monday at school was just awesome.
Yep. So you come to Metamora, and you're the assistant head coach. How much leeway did Coach Greaves give you? Did it increase?
Anything I wanted, a little bit more each year. He never once did he come to me and say, "You're doing too much," or "I don't want you." I don't want you running any of your plays tonight. We want to run. Coach Greaves is a guy who, we don't have one head coach. Everybody's a coach. If you see something, say something. If you see something, you tell that player. If you're scouting this team and you see something that they're running, let everybody know. It's not the head coach's program. It's all of us.
So the more you're here, the more, I guess, responsibilities you get. Mm-hmm. And over the years, the respect from the kids has been amazing. A year or so ago, when Coach Greaves said that he probably had 2 years left, everybody said the head coach is already on the bench. And I'm sure you heard that stuff. And you heard it from the players, and you heard it from the other assistant coaches, and you heard it from parents. That had to be very reassuring to know that everybody kind of had your back.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And then Coach Greaves announces this past, right before Christmas, that he was going to be stepping down at the end of this year, or 1 year early. Mm-hmm. Did you know that prior?
Nope.
So
I
guess
he told me like maybe a day or two before he announced it to the team, but I had no idea coming into the season, no.
And then, so you had to go through the interview process to become the head basketball coach here. And they had to make it public, so they had to interview a few other people. I think, let's be real about this, pretty much a formality.
Okay.
When did they tell you that you would be the new head basketball?
It was the night we played Mount Zion here at home.
Oh.
That was when I met with Mr. O'Loughlin upstairs, and he offered me the job officially. I did the interview the week before.
And then you told him you'd think about it?
No, I accepted it right on the spot.
So
no reason to think about it.
Yeah.
I thought about it for a lot of years now.
Yeah, for a lot of years, and you became the head coach. When did you tell the team?
I don't know if I ever officially told the team. I think it just kind of came out that later, the next week, I think is when it came out, because I had to go through the school board on Thursday. So I think it was just Thursday night. It just came out in the media. We didn't want to create any distractions or focus on anything that didn't involve what we needed to do to win games.
Because that night was a pretty big game. Zion came in undefeated.
Oh, there was nothing. We needed to do nothing to distract him from that game.
Yeah.
We needed to focus on that one.
So you win that game. That was the night of the first round of the Round Ball Classic, I believe.
Yes. First night of it.
And very successful, maybe the most successful Round Ball Classic we've ever had here.
It was a great one this year.
And with the attendance was amazing. And you changed the format a little bit. Will you keep that format?
Yeah, we're going to keep it the same.
Yeah, that was really good. You become the head coach. Did Coach Greaves change anything now that you were going to be the new head coach? Did he say, okay, you take over, or was it just the same as it always had been?
No, not really. Just kind of the same as it always has been. I guess every year I've kind of been able to take over a couple different responsibilities, like ordering the team gear at the beginning of the season, or getting the last couple of years I've been ordering the new team jerseys and practice jerseys and things like that. But nothing really like, okay, now you have to start doing all this stuff. I'm sure I'll start doing some stuff soon that he was doing all the time that I'll have to do now.
Which would be fine with you.
It'd be nice to be in the building to get that stuff done, though. There's probably a lot of things that he was doing and dealing with, being here every day and being able to talk to Jared Hart and our administrators and stuff a lot easier than I can.
Because scheduling would probably be the main thing.
Yeah.
Now that you're the head coach, what things Coach Greaves has pretty much molded you or allowed you to become the kind of coach you are. Are there going to be anything that'll be different, or will it be just like Coach Greaves? It'll be similar. The program won't change anything how we do it. Our summer workouts are going to be the same days and same times, and our practices are going to be pretty much the same. Maybe the only difference would be just my personality versus Coach Greaves' personality in practice and in games on the sideline and stuff like that. I'm not going to try to be somebody I'm not. I got to be who I am in my personality and not try to be Coach Greaves. Well, from somebody who's been to just about every basketball game, I think I've missed 3 games in the last 13 years, and I think that's the same amount as Coach Greaves.
Yeah. I missed one. I know I had to go to a wedding when we played at East Peoria in 2018, I think it was.
And then he missed an East Peoria game.
He missed an East Peoria
game. And a Dunlap game, and he missed
the other one was Streeter.
Streeter, yeah.
At Ottawa, yep.
At Ottawa. The one thing that I've noticed and that I absolutely love is the fire. The fire, and I'm sure Coach Greaves had fire. As he's gotten older, that fire, I don't want to say it's gone away, but he's learned to control
Channeled it a little bit differently.
Yeah. As all older coaches do, they channel that. But, I remember asking you, and we joke about this, I asked you before one of the Jack Tosh games, or what do you expect? And you looked right at me in the most serious look, and there was a few 4-letter words in there, but you said, we're the better team, and if they beat us, it'll be an upset.
Yeah.
And you were dead serious. And Patrick Vaughn just like, holy cow. and you did. You went out and beat Downers Grove North. You beat them by 6.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was only their 3rd loss. They only ended up with, I think, 4 for the year,
really?
or 5. Okay. And they were ranked in the top 10 in 4A all year. Their best player, Jack Stanton, going to Princeton. we held him to 5 points that night. Tyler Mason had an outstanding game.
Yeah, he did.
On both ends of the court. But I would ask you that every now and then, and you had that same fire in your eyes, and I thought, that's amazing, and that's the kind of fire you want from your head coach, and that's what we'll be getting, for the foreseeable future. What other things, Danny Greaves has taken this program to one level, and now you have the ability to probably take it to another level. Is there another level?
Yeah, I think our challenge is going to be to sustain the success and not have, valleys and peaks, which is what we've had over the last few years. We get a couple classes in a row, and we have a little bit of success, and then a little bit of a down for a few years. So hopefully, with the classes we got coming in and with the success that we've had over the last few years, I think you go around Metamora and you see kids shooting outside all the time now, whereas you didn't used to see that when I first moved back here. When Coach Greaves first got the job, he talks about it all the time, but it's really what it is. You go around town, you see a lot of kids playing basketball outside now.
And there's, I love the fact that basketball has become relevant. I'm a Metamora fan, so I'm every sport we do, I'm on pins and needles. But for a long time, we just didn't have that sustain. We'd have a couple good years here and there, sporadically, but you've been a part of a program now that has won 94 games in 3 years, and that's ties a state record with Manual, in those great years they had back in the 90s. And when you think of Manual being this, basketball powerhouse, now we're in the same breath as those guys. Boy, that's some tough shoes to
It's
fill.
pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yep.
So, to maintain that success, that's going to be very, very tough, because now you've got a target on your back.
And we saw this year, and really the last 2 years, we've seen how hard it is when that target's on your back. Every game you come out, you got to expect the other team to play a little bit better, play a little bit harder. They're going to be a little bit more scouted. They're going to have you scouted a little bit more than most teams, because we're on the news all the time, and we're in the newspapers all the time, and even the Chicago guys are talking about us, and everybody's wanting to knock us off, and especially after the last couple of years we've had.
Jim Matson made a comment. He said that at the beginning of the year, it wasn't a knock on Metamora, but it was, just to show how important basketball had become, and how teams, they penciled in, they circled that date with Metamora. And this is what you're going to have to contend with, from game one next year all the way through the season, is that when he came out and talked to Metamora the first day of practices, and they talked about how, we have to defend the title, we're going to defend the title. And when he went and talked to Richwoods, they talked about beating Metamora. And that's, a lot of coaches have had to experience that, and that's going to be a tough thing to defend. That doesn't make you a bad program. That just makes that now you're at a level where you're the top of the mountain, and that makes it tough. And that's a challenge that I'm sure you're probably kind of itching to get started.
It's a great challenge for us, and it's one that most people aren't lucky enough to have this opportunity that we have right now with the kids that we've had that are gone, but the kids that we got coming up, the middle schoolers that have had a lot of success, and a couple classes that we've had. Our freshman class was really good last year, and even beyond those guys, just the other middle schoolers coming up. The more success that we can have with these guys, the more of those are going to want to be a part of it. They're going to want to put in the time to get themselves better.
Yeah, we kind of kid Coach Greaves a little bit about, you're in a gym here, and it's empty right now, and it looks huge, but it's maybe the smallest gym in the conference, and it is sold out. It is loud. If you don't get here by 5:15 or 5:30, you're not going to get to watch the game. You're going to have to go home and watch us, and that's not always a pleasant thing. But we always tease Coach Greaves that before he got here, this was plenty big. And now it's not. And they're going to have to figure out a way to make it plenty big. And the pressure you keep putting on them because the more and more people that want to come to the games and see Metamora play it is going to force our school to do something about this. And it's on their radar for sure. But it is nice, you only get to play about, 9 games at home every year?
So some years not even that many, 7.
Yeah, the
conference games, and that's it. Yeah.
We have the Redbird Round Ball Classic, but man, most of the time, if we want to play a non-conference, we got to go on the road.
It's been really hard to get home games the last few years. Now we got a few more coming next year. I know we got United Township coming right off the bat, December 3rd, so that'll be a good challenge. We've added a few home games. We're still looking for a few more. We still try to get 2 more.
Yeah.
We got our Round Ball Classic. Evanston's coming down from Chicago to come play us this year.
Your former coach, I believe, is the head coach there now.
Yep, Mike Ellis.
Yep. So, boy, that'll be exciting. And if there's one thing that sums up Justin Dehm, what would it be? Because I'll tell you what Coach Greaves said about you today.
I would just say love of the game, passion of the game, work ethic. That's not one word, I guess, but a phrase.
No, it's more of a phrase, but that's fine. I asked.
Dedication. How about that? Dedication.
He said you were very dedicated, but he said you're the most prepared coach he's ever been around. He said you are way more than ready to take over a basketball program. And he goes, he would be a little bit concerned. He's built this program up to where it is, and then it's time. He said it was time for him to walk away, and the only reason he was able to do that is because he knew that it was going to be turned over to you. Okay. And he said he's never been around anybody that prepares a team better, and I've heard that from some of the parents who've been in other programs and then come to Metamora, and they say their kid was more prepared. It doesn't mean you're always going to win a game. They're high school kids. They're 17 and 18 years old. The colleges, it's the same deal with them. They're prepared, and sometimes that still isn't enough because they're kids.
That's right.
And
doesn't guarantee anything.
Doesn't
gives you a chance.
It gives you a little bit better chance.
Yeah.
And Coach Greaves once told me one time. He said, you only figure if you play 35 games, you're only going to be on top of your game about 15 of those games, and the other 20, you've got to find a way to win. And you guys have been able to find ways to win. Yeah,
find ways to steal points, whether that's things that you notice about how they defend, that you can maybe steal a couple baskets on an inbounds play or backdoor play, or it's something the way they play offense that hey, we have to stop this 1 or 2 things they score on every, they score 5 baskets on this every game. Let's take 3 of them away.
Yeah, and that can be the difference in the ball game.
Oh, yeah.
This summer you'll start, you don't have to go to Morton every day. I think you still live
East Peoria, not Morton.
Okay, but you won't have to go there. You can come here and be in the building on game day, which has got to be a big boost.
Yes.
And that'll make it a little bit easier. Is it going to be a little bit surreal to know that now this is your program?
It already is a little bit surreal, right? Just not talking to Coach as much, and him not going to be around as much in the spring is going to be surreal because he's been such a figure of this program for 13 years now.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be a little bit different. And every time you walk through the door, you'll see the posters up on the wall of the state championships. But you'll know that you had a big, huge part of that.
It was amazing.
It was an amazing run for really 3 years. It was just outstanding. And every year, it's a little bit of a bittersweet. Those kids graduate. And that's probably the worst part of being a coach in high school. In college too, but in high school you know that for some of those kids, they're going to move on to play college basketball. Some kids will never play organized basketball again. But you also know that you help them. Sports are, you teach kids how to deal with life.
Oh, yeah.
And I've always thought that a great job here at Metamora in a lot of sports. I thought Danny Greaves did an outstanding job at that. And now that kind of falls on you a little bit. But the kid, when you know that the kids want you there, and the parents want you there, and your assistant coach, they want to be led by you. That's got to make your job just a little bit easier.
Yeah, it makes takes away a little bit of the worry that, oh, yeah, what if I don't do well? What if we don't have a good year next year? What if the next couple years aren't as good? You know, are people going to start to wonder? But like you said, having the support of everybody takes a little bit of those worries away.
I talked to a couple of the board members before you had been hired, and they said, he'll be just fine. He's the man for the job, and there were no qualms about it. I'm glad that they hired you early on. They didn't wait. They made that decision pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. Sure did. I appreciate that.
Yeah. But Justin, we'll let you get going here. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the late fall, early winter in December. We'll be back at the Tournament of Champions.
Oh, yeah.
Which is always a great place to start the season. But best of luck, and we'll see you in December.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you, Scott.